guys, welcome back to my channel. It's V. Oh my gosh, I have missed you guys so much, and so much has been going on since I last talked to you guys. So as you can tell, my background is different. We are currently not in the Netherlands. If you did see my community post, then we are away visiting my family. So I'm sitting in my parents' backyard, and boy did we have quite the eventful trip out of the Netherlands. Schiphol Airport was a complete mess. Guys, we were in line for 5 hours and it seemed like it was never ending. Right when you left one line, you had to get into another line. By the time we were done and we got to our gate, my feet legitimately looked like sausages. Like, it was such a mess, but nonetheless, we've made it home, and that's what matters. And so we're with family. Cameron's with his cousins. My mom's feeding me all this food. The weather has been amazing, but we're having a really good time. Anyways, guys, in today's video, I'm going to be talking to you guys about 7 things I think you should know before moving to the Netherlands. I have made a video like this about a year ago, but now that we've been in the Netherlands for over a year, I feel like I have a little more insight and a little more experience. I mean, definitely not an expert, but I think there's more that I can add to the list. So you guys know the drill. Go ahead and get comfortable, get yourself your favorite drink, and we'll get right into it. So first things first, I think everyone's situation is going to be different. It's going to depend if you're coming from within the EU or if you're coming from a totally different country like we did from the United States. I'm going to give you guys my best tips from my perspective. And the first thing is get copies of all your important life documents. So this means certified copies of your birth certificate, certified copies of your university transcripts if you think you're going to be going to school, copies of your marriage certificate, birth certificates if you have any children. I mean, anything like that. You guys get the drift. Just get copies of all those things before you leave your country and come to the Netherlands, because it's going to be a lot harder getting them once you've arrived here. I know, for example, that we needed to provide certified copies of Cam's birth certificate and our marriage license when we registered at the gemeente, and that was in order to get other things processed. So just save yourself extra time and extra money by getting extra copies of all those important life documents. The next thing is that it's going to take a lot longer to find housing than you plan for. So I literally thought that we were going to be able to find a house within a week of 2 of getting here, but boy was I wrong. So it took way longer than we expected, and that's because it's super competitive here, especially if you're looking to move to one of the bigger major cities. It's really not easy, and that's because you have a lot of people competing for the same houses or apartments. So just because you found a place and you qualified for it financially, my advice is to not fall in love with a place, because it's not a guarantee that you're automatically going to get it. Now, the next thing to know is that Sundays in the Netherlands can be a ghost town. Sundays are very sleepy here. Well, you guys know what I mean in the Netherlands, but I'm going to keep referring to it as here. But Sundays are very sleepy, and for me, it's very odd because Sundays were always a great day to go for grocery shopping or get some errands done or kind of just prepare for the week ahead, but that's not possible here. You do need to plan all that stuff before Sunday rolls around, and don't expect to get really a whole lot done on Sundays. Also, here in the US, I find that some people or businesses, now not all of them, will reply to your emails on Sundays, and that's definitely not the case in the Netherlands. Stuff like that is usually reserved strictly to business hours and business days, which is usually Monday through Friday. Next thing to keep in mind, and this one may sound really strange, but it's one of the things that I actually struggled with the most, is that you may want to buy over-the-counter medication in your country before you come to the Netherlands. So the reason you might want to consider this is because if you're coming to the Netherlands and want to buy medication like aspirin or ibuprofen, you cannot buy this medication over the counter or just pick it up from the shelf. Like I said, guys, this has been something that I have definitely struggled with, because there's certain medications that I've always taken when I have a headache or a tummy ache or just stuff like that. And moving here to the Netherlands, it's been impossible to find those medications. So I definitely plan on stocking up while I'm here home and bringing those medications back with me to the Netherlands. Especially with cold medication, guys, I cannot seem to find any cold medication that actually works over the counter, especially if you grew up with Dayquil or NyQuil. Correct me if I'm wrong, to my Dutch subscribers or anyone that's lived in the Netherlands, I haven't come across anything like NyQuil or anything just as powerful in any of the pharmacies here. So if you're used to those kind of medications where you take them and you feel like you do not have a cold anymore, then I would highly suggest that you bring those medications with you, because you're definitely not going to find them here. Again, I could be wrong. Maybe it is a good thing that they don't take those medications here, but if that's what you're used to taking, then I highly suggest bringing it with you. Next thing you want to keep in mind that might be new for you, especially if you're coming from the United States, is that offices here tend to close over lunch. So this was a concept that was very foreign to me, especially coming from the US, like businesses closing over lunch to take a lunch break. But that's very common here. So I would highly recommend that you do your research and just confirm that the business that you're trying to go to is open throughout the day and not closed for lunch. That way you think you're going somewhere and getting something achieved during maybe possibly your lunch break, only to find that the business is also on their lunch break. So it's just something to keep in mind. And I think the concept of businesses being closed during lunch is a concept that exists throughout Europe. It's something that I was definitely not used to and I've had to adapt. The next thing, and I've talked about this one on a couple videos, is that the Dutch people aren't necessarily the easiest to make friends with. And this is not to say that they are not amazing and lovely people, but it definitely takes time to get them to warm up to you. It's interesting because I found that a good number of expats that I've met here hang out with other expats. But in all fairness, I can say from experience that you need to be a little patient, because now that we are a year in the Netherlands, I have made some wonderful Dutch friends who've gone on to introduce me to other of their Dutch friends. So I have like a little circle of people that I've met. I've actually met some through here on YouTube, and they know themselves. So it just takes a little bit of time. And you know, I'll regularly go out for dinners with some of my girlfriends, my Dutch girlfriends. They're inviting me over to their houses. So it's been really, really amazing getting to know them, getting to know more of how the Dutch culture works. And especially now that Cameron is going into a fully Dutch school and not an immersion school anymore, I know that I'm going to make even more friends from parents of his friends, because I've already made so many friends from parents of his friends from his old school. So there's just so much to look forward to. But all it takes is a little patience and you'll get a whole bunch of Dutch friends. In addition to that, we've made such good friends with our neighbors. So again, it just takes a little bit of patience, and before you know it, you'll start to have your little circle of friends. Now, another thing to know is that once you're settled here in the Netherlands, life is just so smooth. Honestly, I'm just so much less stressed living in the Netherlands, and that's how it's been for the past year. It's such a hard thing to describe if you haven't lived in the Netherlands before, but the best way that I can say it is everything here just works. I mean, the trains work, the buses work, everything just functions properly like it's supposed to. If you have to deal with the government, for example, it's not that stressful and you get the answers that you're looking for. I mean, you can still even call companies on the phone and someone will actually pick up and be nice to you and not give you an attitude. I mean, in general, it's just very smooth living here. Now, that's not to say that when you initially move here, it's not difficult to settle in. And I think that will be the case with any new country that you move to. But once you get everything sorted out, it's pretty smooth sailing. I also find that my life is a lot less challenging because of those little administrative things that stress you out. For example, guys, my midwife wanted me to get my birthing records from my gynecologist here. And boy, oh boy, something that should have been simple and just cut and dry has been so complicated and so difficult. And I do not understand why, but that's just an example of how administrative things that can stress you out here in the US. Again, it's a weird concept to describe, but I don't have it in the back of my mind, for example, that my insurance company is going to screw me over, or if there's going to be issues with this or that. Everything is just very straightforward, and I can trust companies, I can trust the government, and I just really like that about living in the Netherlands. And of course, guys, I'm not oblivious to the fact that every country has its pros and cons. No country is perfect, but we absolutely absolutely love the Netherlands, and that's why we chose to live here. So that's it for today's video, guys. If you guys want to keep up with me in between uploads, you can follow me on Instagram at livinglife.digital. That's also linked down below. I have a pretty exciting week coming up, guys. So this weekend I get to find out with my family what the gender of this baby is. As always, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you did like this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't already, I hope you consider subscribing to the channel, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Dewey.